What is seen as weird by the younger generation that we need to normalize again? Story 1. Not being accessible all the time. Just because I have a cell phone doesn't mean I want to answer it at the supermarket or while cooking dinner, or while driving. It's cool that my boss checks emails in his Tesla driving 20 minutes to work, but I would rather not. I need a break. I had a coworker call me the other day when I was eating dinner. I silenced it and went back to eating. She called 2 more times and then started texting. Like, damn, I'm not picking up the phone. I would have called you back once I was done with dinner, but now hell will freeze over before I call back or respond to the texts. I really hate the multiple calls in a row thing. My mom will call 4 to 5 times in a row. I'm 27. Mom, if I was free to talk, I would have answered on calls 1 or 2. Calling again and again without waiting even 30 seconds in between does not increase my chances of answering. Leave me a voicemail or text me, please. If my mom and I are texting and I don't answer back in less than 2 minutes, she back-to-back texts me, "Hello?" and "Ravenous, are you there? Ravenous, are you okay?" All separate messages, all within 3 to 4 minutes. It could happen if I missed a call, was texting, and had to pee or anything, and she does the same with calls too. I would have my full work and personal schedule on the calendar and send everyone weekly pictures of it. She would still call or text me and blow up my phone and say she forgot, even though she was standing in the kitchen right next to the calendar. She's the type of person who interrogates you for details to see if you're lying, and while I'm not a therapist, she has a lot of narcissistic traits and is manipulative, so these check-ins aren't for me. It's for her control. I hardly talk to her anymore. I just don't respond at this point. Story 2. Internet privacy, or just privacy in general. I'm only 32, but I've still got all the rage inside of me from watching the Patriot Act pass. Kids these days seem to have an extraordinarily high level of trust in handing over their data to the government or tech bros who would be considered oligarchs in another country. The idea that kids want to share their whole selves with these enterprises is just baffling to me. Far too many internet users are just incredibly bad at managing their personal information. They constantly disclose information and rarely infer the risk involved in doing so. This leaves hackers and scammers with so little work left to do. Hell, even I, who is neither a scammer nor a hacker, have been able to track Reddit users, a site with aliases, without having to steal a single password. In high school, the 90s, when they started teaching about the internet, the #1 rule they hammered into your head was never ever put your real name on the internet. So they made us create email addresses, but they couldn't have any personal info in them. Zero privacy has become extremely normalized among this generation. Story 3. Holding your phone to your ear when talking. If you're holding your phone on speakerphone, you are weird and probably watch too many Kardashians. They do it so the camera can hear their conversation. I will not answer a video call in public. It is actually rude to speak on your phone in restaurants, not just on speaker. I will put someone on speaker in my own house if I'm doing something that requires 2 hands. I've done this a few times. I'll reject the call, and they will try again and again. I have answered, waved the phone around to show everyone, and then told the person calling that unless they wanted everyone they just saw to hear whatever they had to say, just text me like a normal person. I have had that backfire once though. A friend decided to sing happy birthday and a random stranger joined in. It wasn't even my birthday. My coworker always puts the shared mobile on speaker and it annoys me so much. I'm trying to concentrate, just use it like a normal phone. And when she uses it like a normal phone, she's like, "Oh, did you hear that?" They want, like, bro, no, I didn't hear it for once. Please explain. No one wants to hear your loud conversations, but I appreciate the confidence. Story 4. Not having social media. Apparently now, not being on whatever sites is a red flag. This isn't even a social thing anymore. I met with a recruiting specialist for my bursary. She told me I needed to step up my personal Instagram if I wanted to get a job in a creative field. I told her that I had an art account for that reason, and she told me no one would take it seriously without a good personal one to back it up. I'm not sure how correct she was, but her assumption alone makes me afraid for the future. Yes, I was just thinking how some businesses don't have websites at all anymore. Just social media accounts. For some businesses, I just don't know what their updates are because of that, so I engage with them less. The specialist having this convo with you makes me feel like that's just the way it is now. Kind of bizarre. I was told that was a red flag. I don't feel the need to take pictures of myself all the time and make myself the main character of my little internet world, and that's a red flag? It is depressing to think about, but dating is hard to do now without social media because it's the popular way to meet people. Because I'm a lesbian and it's 100 times harder to meet women, it almost feels like I'm forced to, but I don't have Instagram, Facebook, anything but Reddit. I don't even like taking selfies and feel so awkward doing it, so what the fuck am I supposed to do? If I create an account on a dating app, a lot of girls will just think I'm this weird mystery person because I don't have social media. But there shouldn't be anything wrong with being a mystery. That is why you take time to get to know people. It makes it harder to make friends as well, especially when people ask if I'm on Facebook and I'm like, no, lol. They probably think I'm a serial killer or something. I just don't want to go on there because I was on and off stalked for years. It was like the Black Mirror episode Nosedive with the trucker woman who has a low score even though she's really nice. People just want to stalk you online before they become friends with you. Story 5. Not having everything you do in public recorded. Two random people arguing, gotta record it. Bad car wreck, don't help, record. Natural disaster, don't run, stay and document it until someone has to rescue you, then get the rescue for maximum likes. I was in an accident. I thought the guy was coming to help me get out of my car or call an ambulance. No, the idiot was recording. I watched a security guard foam at the mouth after being shot at Walmart. Everyone stood there, watching like it was a spectator sport, and half of them started recording with their phones. I was shouting, call 911. Later in the news, I saw that he had died. Damn, that's awful. I really hope that poor man made it. To just stand there and feel zero remorse for recording someone dying is barbaric. When my family was gathered around my dad to guide him through his last moments, at one point I turned to see his wife's friend with her phone out recording us in a horrible private moment and just saw red. How could anyone ever think this is appropriate when the subject is in such a vulnerable position and needs help, not to be put on display? Disgusting. Or not even bad things. I was at the mall today and there was a piano. Someone was playing and this little toddler was dancing. The parents couldn't even enjoy it because they had to keep asking strangers to stop filming their kids. The lady pushed back because it was such wholesome content. Like a stranger's small child is not content. It was super disturbing. Same with all the homecoming soldier videos or random acts of kindness or whatever. They put on so much pressure on the other person to respond in a particular way, and it's just weird. People just can't live something without seeing it through their screens anymore. Story 6. Being quiet at the movies. 100% this. Normally, it's the youngster on their phone. I'm 60, by the way, or just blabbing. However, one of my last movie experiences was 1917. For a change, it was an older group. The whole damn movie. It was, what did he say? What's happening? Interspersed with this was the old guy who kept farting. He was not subtle about it, and he would lean over and let out giant ripping ones. Truly epic. They were loud enough to be heard over the movie. Each time, he would loudly say, sorry. If you see a stain on the seat at the Queensway VIP theater, that was probably him. My husband and I are 40. We used to go to the movies a lot, at least once a week, before our son was born in late 2019. We went last weekend to maybe our second movie since then, 2019. The other people there were a much younger crowd. One group was on a FaceTime call on speakerphone. Another group talked the whole time. At least it was about the movie, so I can't be that mad, I guess. Other groups kept coming in and out very loudly. I have been young at the movies, so I know teens can be loud, but cell phones have made it so much worse. We think there were a lot of teens there because it was cinema day or something and all the tickets were discounted to just $4 each. When I was a kid, our loudness was usually one of us eating a very loud food, then one of us saying shh loudly, then another one of us shushed them, and then we were all a chorus of overlapping shushes like a group of horse seagulls. I'm sure it was obnoxious, but for the first time I got to witness something similar as an adult. It was so hard not to laugh. The disturbance you describe does not sound anywhere near as funny. We need a zero-tolerance policy for speaking in cinema. I don't need you to hoot at every cool moment. Story 7. Not bringing your phone into the sauna or steam room. There's a growing problem with people taking selfies and or live streaming themselves in locker room. Like they stare at themselves in the mirror and use their phones to capture it and don't really care that someone might get caught in the background. It's insane. I don't even wear my smartwatch in the sauna. The sauna is a place to relax, and I don't like to get my phone wet or hot. I don't really know how hot saunas are elsewhere, but here in Finland, they tend to be 80 degrees Celsius plus, so a phone won't really survive extended periods of time inside. Or washrooms for that matter. Had some kids making TikTok videos in the local mall restroom the other day. I went in there and they gave me the biggest eye roll and asked me if I was going to be long. I replied, yep. I went into a stall and proceeded to play a symphony of farts. When I came out, they looked at me disgusted and I asked them, that good enough for your TikTok? That's certainly one way of establishing dominance. Story 8. Having the decency and manners to verbally cancel plans or say you'll be late in a timely fashion that's respectable of the other person's time and effort, instead of framing ghosting people as some kind of cute personality quirk. It's incredibly rude to not cancel within a reasonable time frame. I get that sometimes things happen, but let me know. There have been more than a few times when I've laid out some high-quality snacks for guests, got enough steaks or burgers ready to go, and multiple people who said they'd be there never showed up. The same goes with dinner invites where people flake at the last minute, despite reservations being made. The host is going through an effort to invite the guest. As a guest, you need to respect that hospitality. Anxiety and lack of IRL uncomfortable but formative and important human interaction has created a generation of rude monsters. People are so afraid of seeming mean or rude by saying no to events or plans, not taking in how much crappier it is to cancel last minute or ghost. I don't make plans with my younger cousins anymore. If they reach out, I consider it, but otherwise, it's not worth the effort. They're too up their own asses and in their own heads to metabolize how rude they are. The anxiety excuse kills me. Flaking on social activity because of anxiety is very self-destructive. Story 9. Going to the library. We're poor and my stepmom reads a lot of books, so our library has book sales every couple of months and you can get like a giant bag of books for $5 and you get to keep them. Plus, we rent DVDs from them all the time because we don't subscribe to a lot of streaming services. And if my house is crazy, I can go there and study and not have distractions. So I'm a young person and love the library, but you're right. I have friends who probably don't even know we have one. The one in our school is basically a media center with very few books, just a lot of places to study and do homework. As someone who also logged many hours in libraries in her youth, let me tell you, you will look back someday with much fondness at your time spent in the library. I borrowed books, CDs, magazines, posters, DVDs, audiobooks, art. At 13, I could hole up in an alcove and finish half of a young adult novel before I had to meet my ride or the library closed. I live very rurally now, so have few opportunities to spend an afternoon at the library, but often miss those carefree days. Word! I am an immigrant to the US. There aren't a lot of libraries where I grew up. Think 2 to 3 libraries, public and private combined, for a top 15 metropolitan city in the world. Fast forward a decade plus, living in a solidly middle-class neighborhood with wonderful neighbors. One neighbor's kid was a year older than my son, and she was at our home a lot, like most of the day on the weekends and a lot of evenings on weekdays. Sweet kid. One day, we were about to leave for our weekly library run, and she came over to play with my son. He told her that we were going to get to the library. Her exact words, "Why?" And I'm like, "B, we need to get more books," for my kids, wife, and I, as we ran out of books to read. In a few more sentences, I came to the realization that she's never been to a library. She was in 4th or 5th grade at the time. Still think about that a lot, and in hindsight, I should have just texted her mom and taken her to the library with us. There's nothing quite like a library. It's the best place to get some work done. Story 10. Texting back too quickly is apparently a thing to younger folk, whereas I see it as the ultimate sign of respect and interest when you're having an engaging conversation. There's so much second guessing about presentation and interest levels that many forget that it's cool, fine, and normal to just be honest with feelings and pursue them as long as they're reciprocal. That's just a generational take on an old immature theme. I distinctly remember it being, "What's the appropriate time to call someone back?" as a theme on some 90s sitcoms like Friends or Seinfeld. As people get older, they realize these games are all just stupid BS and life's too short to mess around with that. Just get to the point. Playing games is just needlessly exhausting. Well, hopefully at least. Not everyone grows out of that. Gen X here, for me, it depends on who I am texting. My boss or someone from work, usually right away because they wouldn't bother me unless they really needed to. For some family, like my sister-in-law, I always wait to reply because if I reply right away, she thinks I'm free and then launches into a whole text conversation that I don't have time for right now. She does because she texted me because she's bored, so I wait until I figure she's busy and reply. Also because I'm Gen X, I generally don't feel as tied to my phone and getting back to people as quickly as younger people do. I also hate talking or texting when I'm busy in public. I'll call you back later when I'm home sitting on the couch. Right now, I'm grocery shopping and have a lot on my mind. There are just some people you can't text back immediately. Story 11. Can we re-normalize using headphones while listening to music or watching videos in public, please? I should be able to study on campus without having to listen to someone else's stuff. I can't even go to the campus library without someone blasting their stuff. I went to a coffee/hookah spot last night. Someone was watching TikTok nearby at full volume. You would hear like 3-second clips of every audio, and it was like they weren't even watching any full video, just flipping through them every couple of seconds. It was awful. I work with those kinds of idiots. They're constantly playing videos on their phones. It happens so often that I get the sound effects of trash TikTok, Facebook memorized. There's the danger sound from Metal Gear Solid, hee hee ha ha, and of course, oh no, oh no, oh no, 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 no. The only person who uses headphones is me. I was on a flight last week, a super late one, and there was a family in the 2 rows across from me, each listening to videos without headphones, on and off throughout the 6-hour flight. Kids and adults, loudly. They did a whole lot of stuff during that flight that ground my gears, and that was one of the worst. Yeah, what's up with that? All of a sudden, people just think it's okay to watch a movie out loud on a plane or in a waiting room. Story 12. Be 100 meters away from the nearest adult. It's sad to me that we've reached a point in society where you're going to be seen as an irresponsible parent if you let your kid and their friends ride off on their bikes and promise to be home by 5 or whatever. Going to the mall and just having bicycle tethered freedom was such an awesome experience when I was 14 or 15. Like all kids, the stuff we did that should have gotten us in trouble happened right under our parents' noses, so I can't see any argument for blaming our mobility or anything problematic that we did. I don't think children are benefiting from this either. By the age of 9, my cousins and I were walking across town or hopping on buses, taking ourselves to local attractions and reliably coming home well before dinner time. This was 20 years ago. Our town hasn't changed much. The buses are still reliable, the crime rate is still low, but now kids are either at home or being helicoptered by their parents while out of the house. Kids aren't self-solving the awkward parts of social development with the members of their communities. They're more shy, reserved, and less willing to take risks. This will affect employability, anxiety, and social status in adulthood. As a borderline Gen Z, born 1995, this is it. My parents never let me do anything when I was a preteen or teen years. I wasn't even a bad kid. I rarely got into trouble. I was never really allowed to go hang out with my friends or have sleepovers, even if they lived in the same neighborhood. I missed out on learning a ton of social skills, which made my transition to adulthood pretty tough. Yep, it's tragic. You benefit quite a bit by being able to make your own decisions and knowing how to get around and do stuff for yourself. Sometimes you might even interact with someone who's not good, but you learn how to handle that and develop life skills. All the parents who just helicopter and shelter their kid from everything possible, no friends, parties, sleepovers, outings with them, etc., ship them off to a fancy college and then can't understand why their son or daughter is suddenly an alcoholic and screwing and sucking everything under the sun. It's unfortunate because I totally understand how that happens and know how preventable it can be. Don't hide the world from your kid, people. Let them get exposed to the good and the bad at a slow but reasonable level. You can't hide them from it forever. It's all about finding the right balance, but parents are too paranoid these days. Story 13. Being able to fix things yourself, sew hems in small holes, fix a toilet or garbage disposal, etc. More and more things are purposefully being built in a way you either need to hire someone or you need specialty tools. It's companies realizing they can make more money if things are harder to fix. There are a lot of guides online on how to do stuff, but at the same time, a lot of things are built to be either fixable only with specialistic tools or not at all. You can also lose warranty, if you have any, for messing with your thing. So it's basically untouchable for the first few years. I find it hard to believe young people find this weird, especially after COVID hit. Sewing and remodeling vans into homes and stuff became really big, so I can't agree with this one. I think it did come back. Plus, if you're poor, you'll always be jerry-rigging your own stuff no matter what decade it is. I do one of the tasks you described as a living and make pretty decent money doing it. It's horribly offensive how many people refuse to learn the basics of manual labor because it's somehow shameful. I've had people who pay me $150 per hour to do basic home maintenance literally shudder and say, well, it's a fine job for someone else, but not my kid, when I offer their teens a job and teach them the basics of what I do. I've pretty much accepted we are a society that's irreversibly on the decline. Funny how things are becoming less convenient with time. Story 14. talking to people in person and asking people out, and not being a weirdo if they say no. Apps and social media have caused so much head rot. I'm not sure if this is the worst one for me. It's like how it was normal to drop by for unannounced visits when people just had landlines. Well shoot, that was normal, but hard pass on that now that we all have cell phones. I'll let you know if it's a good time first. Before, it felt like cold hitting on someone you ran into and found attractive was normal because if you don't get her number, you won't find her again. Just take the shot, even if it's a blind one and regardless of context. With online dating, you have to put yourself on the market, can set some basic filters for compatibility and have at least a swipe back. You only try to flirt with people who want to be flirted with. Isn't that overall a better system? I could be very biased because it all comes down to the sample size, but everybody I know that dates off apps is miserable and has at least one story of just an absolute train wreck experience. The one couple that's currently engaged that met on Tinder actually didn't date off it. She matched him or whatever, but then ghosted him, if I recall correctly, but he ran into her at a wrestling show. They both love pro wrestling. He used his goofy charm to get her to have a drink with him. So the app really just sets them back, if anything. I 100% agree about the now or never aspect of pre-app dating, but there's never going to be a world where I hope the person I've been presented with actually shows up is superior to the person I can see in front of me talk to me, we already met, and I know what they look like because I saw them in person. It's impossible. I mean, how many people aren't trying to make themselves look better than they are with their dating profile? Go for the prize you can see right in front of you, and agree to go out knowing that they already saw you and talked to you, and still want to meet you. It's so superior, it might as well be a totally different game. Story 15. Men being in any way close or affectionate to kids who aren't their own. We're not all creeps, you know. I'm in my 30s, spent a decade as a male kindergarten teacher. I have kids, and I know how kids act. So don't get freaked out. I do not want to sleep with them. I even get weird looks from young people at social events when my goddaughter wants a hug or a kiss on the cheek or for me to play with her toys. I've known her dad since I was 3 years old and her since she was born. We're basically family. Grow up, you little weirdos. Last year, one of such morons actually alerted the mother after noticing how problematic it was. Her reaction was brilliant, and my mates, oh boy, we'll be telling that bit to our grandkids. Priceless. For a while, my wife and I were watching my nieces after school. Their school was right by. Normally, I wasn't home when they got out of school, and my wife would walk over there and pick the girls up and walk them back to the house. One day, I was home, and she asked me to do it. She told me to go stand in the field near the back door where they came out, and said a bunch of other parents would be waiting around. Didn't think about how I wasn't a parent and more of a stranger to everyone there. It was maybe about a 7-minute wait for me. During that time, 7 different parents, 2 teachers' aides I think, were there, and the principal all came to talk to me to find out what I was doing there, and they all admitted they were just checking to make sure I wasn't there to steal kids. When my nieces came out, they were escorted by their teacher, and the teacher had to confirm that I was the girl's uncle. I understand the concern, but I'm not going to deny it felt demoralizing, made me question my appearance, and has since made me incredibly uncomfortable when approached by children I do not know. So there was a big social event for the mother's 30th, maybe 25 people packed into the living room. Right beyond it is a conservatory with a glass screen door with all my goddaughter's toys, basically her play area. She asked for me to come play with her, and I said sure. No big deal, right? I can give up 30 minutes from the party to play. Anyway, partway through it, I can see one of the younger participants giving me the stink eye. At one point, he takes the mother into the adjacent hallway. I guess this was to voice his concerns, but I only saw her emerge, pissing her pants and laughing. She was like, Tim, come here, you've got to hear this. So Tim, not real name, my buddy, goes into the hallway as well. Now, I couldn't see what transpired here, but most of the rest of the party could. No one can quote it verbatim, but apparently it went something like this. Hey man, don't you think it's weird that your buddy is so close to your little girl? Relax, he's her godfather. He was her teacher in kindergarten. We've known each other for years. He has the keys to our house, for God's sakes. That makes it worse. Aren't you even bothered in the slightest what he could do? Well, he's not going to rob us, is he? He only lives 2 streets away. No, I mean what he could do to your little girl. What, are you saying he's a pedophile? Haven't you ever considered the possibility? Bang! Tim punches him straight in the mouth and drops him to the floor. Tim's a big guy as well, maybe 250 pounds. Big difference between him and this 19-year-old dweeb. From my vantage point in the play area, I just saw half the party stand up freaking out in shock, and the other half, the rest of me and Tim's buddies, start bursting their sides laughing. Me and the daughter rush out to check the commotion to the sound of Tim's "get the heck out of my house," followed followed by a bloody-mouth idiot composing himself and swiftly exiting stage left as the rest of the party starts either berating Tim or laughing their asses off for his actions. Ironically, I think society is pushing males to more traditional roles these days. Story 16. I feel like you can't just talk to random people anymore. No one seems approachable. My mom talks to anyone whether she knows them or not. I notice a lot of the older generations are much more open to random chit-chat. Old person here, I start conversations with anybody. Love talking to 20-something. I'll tell a girl trying on a new outfit at the store how amazing she looks in it, then ask what the outfit is for. Next thing you know, she asked me to help her pick out shoes. How to start a conversation with a random stranger. RS. Make a complimentary comment with a follow-up question. Me. That is an awesome tattoo. RS. Thanks. Me. Does it have a meaning? RS. 10-minute convo on what it means. Me. Wow, great story. How did you find the right artist? RS. 10-minute convo on how. He was a big burly dude with a bunch of other big burly dudes. Kind of scary when I asked him the first question. After a convo, he opened the door to the store for me. Nice kid. People love to talk about themselves. Interestingly, I engage with strangers all the time and almost all respond enthusiastically. I'm over 60 and society gives our age demographic a lot more social leeway in this regard, but the people of almost all ages with whom I engage seem hungry for it. My family calls me a human Labrador retriever because I strike up conversations and often end up stopping and talking well beyond the friendly opening remarks. Mid-40s guy here. A few weeks ago, I was on a plane and a woman the same age as me was sitting beside me. It was a 5+ hour flight and we chatted for nearly half of that. She was interesting and really nice, and we had a fair bit in common. As we were getting off the plane, she mentioned how nice it was to have a conversation like the one we had and how it doesn't seem to happen very often these days. I wanted to bring it up before she did, but I didn't want to sound like an old-timey back-in-my-day kind of guy. Haha. Really though, flying used to be that way 20 years ago. It used to be totally normal to talk to people around you. Story 17. Getting called out for being wrong doesn't make it racist, sexist, homophobic, or whatever. It's because you're wrong and people are way too used to their online echo chambers where no matter how wrong and factually incorrect their statement is, they get praised. Modern media coverage at its peak. One time I got dogpiled by around 200 Disney stans for taking a shot at She-Hulk. At first, I calmly attempted to explain my reasoning and gave examples of female-led projects I love, but I quickly realized it was about a quick, cheap dopamine hit and had nothing to do with if the person they were attacking was actually sexist or not. Having anyone question what you do, even if it's just out of curiosity, can be seen by some people to be offensive. I remember when I was 13, a Christian girl in my math class said she was fasting during Ramadan, and when I asked her why she was fasting, despite not being a Muslim, she accused me of saying black people can't fast. The problem with today is that people can't differentiate between ignorance and racism. I've been asked many times, where are you from? Or assumed I was Chinese. I'm Korean American. I laugh about it because I understand they weren't intentionally trying to be offensive. I will always correct them, and they are respectful back. Sometimes folks just don't know because either they are from an older generation or aren't used to being in an area with people of my demographic. That's not hate or prejudice. Being called a slur and mocked or attacked for my background is an example of prejudice. The word racism has been trivialized so much, and it makes me sad because people aren't focusing enough on the actual issue of racism. Preach! It seems like everything is blown out of proportion these days. Thanks for watching until the end. If you have a similar story to these that you would like to share with us, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and don't forget to subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again and see you next time.